Board meeting to order. Can we have the Pledge of Allegiance, please? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay. If you grant me a little indulgence, I guess I'd like to take a moment to make just a recognition, a comment to the situation in Madison, the shooting. It's really a terrible event that happens around the country and here. Let's keep that in mind as we go through our meeting. And also in the past month, there's been 4 fires in Southern Door, 2 of those with the tragic loss of life. I want to reach out and say thank you to the local fire departments that have done an outstanding job in working those fires. I know I have family members that are members, grandson-in-law that's the fire chief in Nassau-Waupee. It's been a difficult situation for them. And not only the fire departments, all the others that respond to those fires, but the sheriff's department and the EMS. They do a wonderful job of protecting us. And we need to, say thank you to them. Along that same line, and that'll be a topic coming up soon, is the transports. I don't know if many of you are aware, but at the Bug Fire Station in Brussels, they've, through donations and help, they've put a landing pad there now. So there's a helicopter that's been landing there for the Rescue for Life. So I think those are significant happenings. Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll have a roll call.
Joel, could you?
There you go. 19 present.
Okay, we have 19 present and 2 excused. Okay, presentation of the agenda. Have a motion to approve the agenda. We will make a deviation. We'll have the report from Dr. Stevens from the medical center. Okay, there's a motion by Norton and a second by Shaw. All in favor of approval signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, that carries. Okay. Correspondence. There was nothing in the packet, I believe. Okay. And public comment. Anyone in the audience? Okay, seeing no indication. Is there anyone online?
Yes, for those that are online, if you'd like to speak, if you could raise your hand, I'll give you the floor for up to 3 minutes. Again, I do have one individual. When I put you into the queue, if you could please give us your name and address. The first one is up, that is Greg. I'll move you up and you have to just unmute yourself, but you have the floor.
Great, thank you very much. My name is Greg McAllister, and I am a property owner at 8121 Harbor Lane in Bailey's Harbor. And I'm speaking today to urge the board to become more involved in developing and carrying out plans to remove the stranded tugboat Donnie S. The boat has been stranded in Bailey's Harbor for more than 3 years. I think it's clear that it's a hazard to navigation, a potential hazard to the environment, and a danger to the people who frequently visit and dive off it. Until now, enforcement has been limited to fines issued by the DNR, and the longer it remains, the more difficult and costly it will be to remove. There is often a misunderstanding that enforcement is limited only to the DNR or the state, but that's not right. The county actually also has the authority to remove vessels that obstruct navigation. And I could discuss this at greater length with your corporate counsel if you're interested. Engagement by the board is timely at this moment because a meeting is scheduled for late January between DNR officials and DA Colleen Nordine. And the purpose is to explore options to finally remove the tug. And this meeting is an opportunity for the board and the county to urge both to urge the DNR to act and to remind the DNR that the county has authority to take action if the DNR fails to. In conclusion, the tug has blighted the harbor for far too long. There is finally some momentum for a solution, And the board now with this January meeting has the opportunity to make sure that this momentum continues and succeeds. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any other public comment?
Anyone else who'd like to speak? And for the final time, anyone else who'd like to speak? Okay,
Okay, hearing no further comment, supervisor's response. Okay, the approval of the minutes of the November 12th, 2024 minutes. Those include minutes for the public hearing, the hearing on the farmland preservation and the regular board meeting. Do we have a motion to approve those, please? Okay, a motion by Roy Engelbert and a second by Supervisor Gauger. Any discussion? Otherwise, all in favor of approval signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that carries. Okay. And then we could have the special report from about the medical transports. Aaron and Brian, would you come up, please? And Brian, you could do Aaron, you can do the introductions or however you want to.
Good morning, everybody. Mr. Stevens, the CEO of the hospital. Aaron LeClaire for them. You don't know me. We're just here to kind of give a brief overview of how the transfer program has gone since we started up, and February 1st was really the go live day. So I'll let Mr. Stevens go first. Sure.
Hi, everybody. Merry Christmas to you. I appreciate you having me this morning to give an update on the transport program. As I said, probably many times when we were talking about the agreement and we were kind of going through the process, we really do appreciate the opportunity to work with the county on this. It is a unique arrangement, I believe, in the state of Wisconsin. I don't know that there's any others quite like it. And it's really beneficial to our community and to our patients. I didn't want to get into too much detail, but I'm certainly happy to answer questions. The one piece of detail that I did want to provide is obviously we track our transport numbers. We track the amount of time that it takes from the time that our ER physician determines that a transfer to another facility is necessary to how long it takes for that patient to leave our facility. And that's the main number that's really changed, and we've made a big difference over the last couple of years. So let me give you some perspective on that. Last year, prior to implementing this program, the average wait time for a transfer was 105 minutes in our ER. So again, from the moment the ER physician says we need to transfer this patient and we have an accepting facility to they're actually out the door was 105 minutes. Through the implementation of this program this year, the average wait time is 68 minutes. So we've nearly cut that in half. And then if you just look at the transfers that our Door County EMS team is doing, the average wait time is 47 minutes. So it's even much lower. So it's been a tremendous success from our perspective. We are doing about the same number of transfers this year that we did last year. There's been some surprises in the numbers. We won't get in too much into that. I know you've been meeting with our team and have been working through that, but it certainly doesn't have any financial impact to the county or anything like that. The bottom line is that patients are being cared for. They're being cared for better than they were prior to us putting this program into place. So happy to answer any questions, but I think you have probably a couple of things.
Just a couple things specific to how we've done it and what we've done. We've been full staffed in that part of the department since February 1st when we started going. Since that time, we've provided 495 transfers. So 66% of those were done with a paramedic and an EMT. 30% were done with an EMT crew. 3% required a dual paramedic crew, and 1% of those required us to still take a nurse along to get the patient the care they needed. So when it comes to the financials, Director Whipperfirth and I talk very frequently. Captain Gordon's tracking everything that we do, and then in turn we meet with the hospital. And over the course of this year, they've made monthly installments to us. And then even starting October, they upped those installments once we got a better grasp of the numbers. We're slated to meet again on January 20th off the top of my head to get we'll have better wrap on your expenses in that department. And tracking the transfer revenue is a little difficult. We still have outstanding balances back to February. Actually, there's still some outstanding, so that it's the same on our 911 side as well. But that's why we made that arrangement with the hospital that they were paying as we go here as well. So with that,
Yeah.
fire away.
Real quick, I alluded to surprises. I shouldn't just leave that hanging. But what I'm really referring to there is that the percentage of our transports that are Medicare, covered by Medicare, are higher than we expected. And if you look at what the county's paid for transports, I'm just throwing a number out here, but for us, like when we provide services, usually we get paid about half what we do from a commercial insurance for any given service. I would think the same is probably true of transports. So when you see your Medicare percentage come in a lot higher than we expected, that's what creates a greater deficit and is what is causing us to need to provide greater support payments to the county, which we're doing.
Okay, are there any questions from anyone? Elizabeth?
A comment and a question. I was in the boat with my family, the wait time, and it was disturbing and upsetting, and I'm so glad that this has occurred. I've gotten feedback already from constituents the word is out now that they understand that there can be a transfer. So the question would be, if it's a heart or a stroke and the constituent knows they probably should go right to Green Bay, is that communicated to them at the time? Or are they something they have to advocate for and know about?
I guess it varies from in the field on the 911 call. The crews are going to take them to the most appropriate facility. And then the hospital's doing the same thing. In the case of stroke, heart attacks, they're working to transfer them to the most appropriate facility as quickly as possible because time matters in those instances. So.
And that's changed over the years and it'll probably continue to evolve just based on telemedicine and just different advances. So now we keep a lot more stroke patients here locally than we used to in the past, just because we can care for them through what we can provide and have a neurologist available via telemedicine to help guide us through that process. So cardiology, same way in some cases. I mean, we do a lot of stabilizing of heart attack patients before they're transferred. Those typically are transferred eventually.
Thank you.
Sure.
Supervisor Miller?
Hey, Brian, real quick question. You mentioned Medicare
Yes.
and, obviously the difference in payment.
Yep.
I want to make sure I understand your comment correctly. So you are, the hospital's making the county whole
Correct.
on those Medicare. So we're not taking any kind of a hit because of the Medicare situation.
That's correct. And
Thank
that
you.
was the plan all along. But obviously what we had projected would be the support payments was based on a certain, what we call payer mix, where we assumed, I think I brought the actual numbers. Again, I told you I wasn't going to get too much into the weeds, but I'm a numbers guy. So we had projected based on last year that 58% of the transfers would be Medicare. The actual numbers are coming in at 62% are Medicare. So for all of those, additional Medicare patients, that's a greater deficit that needs to be made up. And yes, we're increasing our support payments to cover that.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Okay, Supervisor Thais?
Yeah, and I just to further that question, and maybe I not quite catching it. So does the county get reimbursed at the Medicare rate or at the commercial rate?
It depends what the patient's insurance is. So if they have Medicare, we get the allowable reimbursement that Medicare allows for the base rate and mileage. The commercial rate varies by insurance company, but typically we'll recover almost 100%.
So we're not made whole from the hospital at a commercial rate. We're made whole at whatever is applicable. If it's commercial or if it's Medicare.
We're made whole to our expenses to administer the program.
Okay, gotcha. Fine. Thank you.
Okay, Supervisor Zettel?
Yes, thank you. Relative to the transfer destination, are they primarily Green Bay or are there other municipalities involved?
Off the top of my head, I think they were this year. I think for us, what we've provided have just been to Green Bay area hospitals. I think you've got a few to Milwaukee to the burn center, but we did not do the most recent one.
Right. If anybody has reading glasses, I can actually read this. I should have brought them along. But of the 800 transfers that we've done to this point this year, the top transfer facilities are St. Vincent, Aurora Bay Care, St. Mary's, Then there's an other that was 76 transfers. So I'm, those are by and large going to be the out of community. So whether they're going directly to Milwaukee for whatever reason or to another facility, there have been times in the last year that all the facilities in Green Bay have been full. So that's another scenario where we have to send to another city, but less than 10% of those go somewhere beyond Green Bay.
Okay, anyone else? Okay. Hey, Aaron, just kind of put you on the spot here. Earlier, I alluded to that landing pad at the bug fire station in Brussels.
Yes, sir.
It has been already utilized, I
Yeah, I think
understand.
it was used the morning after they opened it.
Okay,
Yeah. And that's to intercept, that's for our field crews that
Yeah.
have something critical that'll intercept with either Eagle 3 or Theta Star.
Mhm.
And it allows bug not to recall firemen to secure because it's a designated landing zone. They don't need firemen to secure the area anymore, so it's in time. And they did that 100% through donations and donated work, and
Mhm.
we just shovel it and snowball it.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or questions from anyone? Otherwise, thank you very much, Brian, for the report.
Thank you.
Aaron,
Appreciate the
Thank you.
opportunity.
Thank you.
okay, back to the agenda, the monthly report from the administrator on the operational and capital projects.
Sure. So for this month, again, you can kind of see some of the projects are coming off or they have been noted as being completed. Obviously, starting in the new year, we'll update that with our new projects and plus we'll have the ones that we consider carryover. But with that, I'll leave it unless there's any questions. Otherwise, we can continue on with the agenda.
Okay, seeing no questions, we'll move on to the new business, the resolutions for today. Resolution 2024-62, dealing with appointments, Supervisor Thais.
I just made the motion because I was told I had to, so.
I was told I couldn't.
About it, so, Mr. Pavic? Listening.
Again, this resolution's, again, one of our standard resolutions when we have this appointments for, again, in this case, our Door County Housing Authority, and then our Veteran Service Commission. Again, you can see the individuals that have been appointed for that. And again, if they're a new member, we have the little bio below.
Okay, any questions? Otherwise, we have the motion by Supervisor Thais, second by Supervisor Rublard. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that carries. Resolution 2064-63, Supervisor Miller. All right. I screwed you up.
Sorry. We were gonna go with the vote.
Okay, I thought you said not on that one. Okay, so are you all right?
Yep, we're good.
Okay,
Okay, thank you. I'll make I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 2024-63. The approval of the agreement with Tyler Technologies for the financial software support. And I would ask either Ken or Jason maybe to kind of fill everyone in more detail.
Sure, so I can cover that one and Steve can be my backup. But again, the Tyler software is our main financial software package that we use for the county. And again, what we're looking at is what we always try to do is we look at our maintenance and how can we control our costs for that. And obviously, when we work for these companies, we try to evaluate, are we going to stick with that software? Are we going to change? I know if I'd say we're going to change software to Steve, he'd probably lose the rest of his hair like me. And so I know he does not want to change. It's been suiting us well. So then we try to maximize how we're going to work with that software or that vendor. So in this case, we look at their support contracts. And in this case, we get the best deal in terms of overall pricing if we have an extended support contract with them. And in this case, we're looking at doing a 5-year term. Traditionally, if it's a 3-year, it can just go to the committee and be approved. But when it goes above the 3rd year, anything above that has to come to the county board for approval. And that's why it's here before you today.
okay, any questions about that resolution? Okay, again, on a motion by Supervisor Miller and a second by Supervisor Voigt to approve resolution 2064-63, all in favor, go to the voter board, please. I'm sorry. Okay. Okay, and that passes with a vote of 19 yes and 0 no. Okay, resolution 2064-64 with the Justice Center roof, Supervisor Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 2024-64, which is the transfer of non-budgeted funds Justice Center roof project. And this particular resolution and the following resolution go pretty much hand in hand. And maybe either Ken or Wayne can explain how we came up with the numbers that we're asking for approval today and the interaction between this resolution and the following one.
Okay, I will cover the initial, but maybe Wayne, you could be my backup if you could, please. But just to give quick context overall, an explanation for both of these would make sense. So in essence, Wayne took it upon his review. We actually, at that time, I believe it was CISA 7 it was called. And they actually did an assessment of the Justice Center. And through that assessment, what they're looking for, are there ways for us to make the building more efficient? And traditionally in the past, what we have done with our projects is that if there's an opportunity for us to implement a technology that has a payoff under 10 years, and actually we were a little bit tighter, usually around 7 years, then we actually consider that viable. So at that point in time, when they did the assessment, there were other things that we've done at the Justice Center, but this one's a little bit of a larger project. In essence, what we're looking at as part of this, there's two parts, and the main part of the recovery or the cost recovery, but also efficiency recovery is that what they call the air handlers on the rooftop. And it's really in terms of how we're trying to condition the air within the facility itself. And by installing this technology, we'll have savings, and those savings actually we're projecting is paid back within the 7 years. For us to institute that technology, though, it also requires that is modifications made to the roof. And the roof is actually at its 20-year mark in terms of age. And it's actually scheduled to be replaced. We can extend that out if necessary, right? So the roof, we've been doing maintenance, but it's also at its life where we're looking at doing this portion of the roof and the rest of the Justice Center in terms of a roof replacement with it, all within probably a 3-year window. The reason why we're bringing this forward to the county board is that the area that's being considered is part of the jail pod in the back. And that roof is truly independent in terms of elevation. It's not connected to the rest of the building. So it's not really a situation where you want to say, no, let's wait and let's do it all together. So what we're looking at doing is actually replacing that portion of the roof. And when we're replacing that portion of the roof, we will make the proper adjustments to the roof along with the necessary roof penetrations to install this new technology and make it all come together. The other part that why it's here today is obviously the financial side. When we went through this, we did have a projected project budget. We did set some money aside within the KIP, but we also plan to take some of that money out of what we call our building reserve, our maintenance account for our buildings. And again, once we got those bids, it was within our overall project window, but it was definitely at the higher end, unfortunately, but it's still within what we thought would be within the budget itself. But then it does require us to take those funds out of our building reserve account. So again, both of these resolutions will be asking for a certain portion of money to become out of that account to help pay for that project. So that'd be my summary. Wayne, did I miss anything that you'd like to add to help explain the project?
The only other thing that maybe we can just expound on is like, why is the bid number so much different than the request? Right, so we built in the contingencies on the Justice Center roof. We built in an 8% contingency on that project, and then for the HVAC, we built in 11%. So while it all makes sense to me, it might not make sense to other people of why the ask is different than what the bid is, which is different than what the engineering costs. But when we bring the whole thing together as a project and then add in the contingency dollars, so we're not back in front of you for $5,000 because something went over, then it's kind of a not to exceed, right? Of course, if we have something catastrophic, we'd have to come back, but this would build those contingency dollars into the project.
Okay, are there any questions of Wayne or Ken? Okay, Supervisor Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Have we considered rooftop solar? For being included on this project?
Yeah, could you wait? It's better if you.
Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. But on this section of the roof, the HVAC components that we're adding are actually external to the roof. So there would really be 2% space left over on this particular pod. So the rest of the Justice Center as a whole is probably the most viable place to come and look at solar again. And it's not necessarily for electricity, but for hot water, I think is what we're looking at to make up that difference in boiler capacities. So yes, we continue to look at that.
Okay, are there questions from anyone else? Okay,
If I could just add one other thing. So obviously, if you look at the two resolutions, they're tied together, so we can't do one without the other. So again, that's why you have it. We need to replace the roof, so that way we can do the air handlers as part of the next resolution. So that's why it's the resolutions are tied together. So just wanted to make that statement. So thanks.
Mhm. Okay, for resolution 20, that's a transfer of $85,000 from the maintenance account, and it requires the 2/3 vote in order to do that. So we do have the motion by Gunlickson, second by Fisher. All those in approval of that, go to your voter board and vote, please. Okay, that passes on a vote of 19 yes and 0 no, and 2 absent. Okay, resolution 2064-65, Supervisor Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 2024-65, which is the transfer of non-budgeted funds to the Door County Justice Center Emergency Recovery System for APOD of the jail project, which Ken had just previously explained.
Are there questions on that resolution? Okay, seeing no indication of any questions, or Roy, I apologize.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to point out that if this building had been built 15 years later, this recovery system would have been mandatory. So this is not something that we're doing haphazard.
Mhm. It is an indication of technology changes, and so some of those are changing as we go. Okay, motion is by Supervisor Miller, second by Supervisor Gunlickson to approve resolution 2024-65. Again, go to the voter board. It requires a 2/3 vote. And that passes with a vote of 19 yes, 0 no, and 0 abstaining.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, resolution 2024-66, Supervisor Thais.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to introduce resolution 2024-66, which is titled Chief Deputy Sheriff Tenure. As many of you have been aware of, Chief Deputy McCarty has announced his retirement effective shortly after the first of the year. That position serves at the pleasure of the Sheriff Sternard. And as we were working through her replacement, who she's chosen to take his position, it became obvious that in order to viably get good candidates, you need to give them a little bit of protection. Obviously, this position, because it is at the pleasure of the sheriff, if the sheriff changes, the position could change. And at this given time, whomever that chief deputy is would not have any protection or be able to go back in the rank and file. This resolution would allow for that deputy to go back into the standard, I guess, sheriff department in a position that would be available. So this allows for candidates to step out and take roles like this and have protection. So it's, I guess, I don't know if anyone wants to add any more to that, but I think that's the gist of what we're looking to do.
Sean, is there anything you would want to add? No,
No, it was explained very well. The only addition is if at the time of a sheriff replacing the current deputy. There is no position for the then chief deputy to move into in the sheriff's office. The next available position would be offered to the outgoing chief deputy, presuming they're qualified for that position. So it's whatever's available at the time, and if none, then the next available would be offered.
Okay. Any questions regarding the resolution? Okay. Again, on a motion by Supervisor Thais and a second by Supervisor Voigt to approve resolution 2024-66. Would you go to your voter board, please? Okay, this resolution passes with a vote of 19 yes and 0 no's. Okay. Resolution 2024-67, performance incentives. Todd.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to introduce resolution 2024-67, the pay for performance incentives, as is indicated in the table below the resolution. And I guess we need to approve this in order to implement it after the first of the year. Obviously, there's a lot of details behind it, which Ken can fill in if anyone has questions.
Okay. Ken, any comments to it, or it's?
Sure. I think one of the things that obviously stands out is just the rate itself. It's a little bit of a deviation. Again, there's a factor for why we're doing this. And it's really twofold, as I explained at the administrative committee. Really, one is the 1% is obviously given our financial projections going forward. I guess we're trying to put ourselves in a position to put us in a favorable position for our 2026 budget process, and recognizing, I guess, what we covered during our budget retreat. The second item is obviously one of the things that we are looking at, and traditionally would be part of this resolution, would be what we consider the cost of living or our aging of our pay plan. As you'll notice, that is not included. And really part of that is this it's what I explained at the admin committee. So after these, we're still in negotiations with one of our units. And those negotiations obviously has an impact on where we budgeted ourselves fiscally. So I did not want to bring that forward, knowing that we weren't sure where we're going to be financially with our other represented unit yet. So until that portion is done, I will not bring forward any type of aging for the pay plan. But again, so what you have before you here is that obviously we have people who have to have their evaluations done starting right away in January. Actually, we have a large part of the workforce that's actually on January 1st. So we at least wanted to have this in effect. The other thing that also changes a little bit is you'll see that in the past, because we had a larger incentive, we had something that was just beyond what I would consider a meets or below requirements. Again, when we're doing, again, it's 1%, so some people might be smaller. I guess I'm trying to be positive and say that we're at least providing an opportunity for some type of recognition for their performance. But again, we're doing more of as a meets or below that standard. So that's a little bit of a change in that, and we'll obviously evaluate that going forward. But I do think it's still important for our supervisors and department heads to have that discussion at their annual review. And if there's something that's a little bit tied to it, even though in this case it's 1%, I still think there's value to that as our organization at this point in time. So that's why it's before you today.
Okay, any questions or comments on that resolution? Supervisor Anigal, thank you.
Thank you. Some scenarios. Let's assume the person meets the requirements and they're at 95% of the value. They would get the full 1%, correct?
Mm-hmm.
If they're at the 115%, then they get a potential of a 1% merit pay, correct?
Correct.
If an individual is at 114.49, then they would get 0.5%. What happens to the remaining 0.5%?
We divide it up. So we bring them up to the 115%, and then whatever percentage is left is provided as a merit.
Okay. It wasn't clearly spelled out when we talked about it, and it just dawned on me just today. Thank you.
Good question.
Okay, Supervisor Schomo.
Sorry if I missed this in the budget process, but does it come out of the department's budget if they give this? Or does it come out of a different pot of money? The only reason I'm wondering is like if they have to keep the budget the same and then you're deciding on discretionary merit, if you meet it, if everyone in the department meets it, is that in their department budget and then the next year they can't use those funds, or how does that work? Or is it a different pot of funding?
It's a little bit of a hybrid answer. So, finance department goes through each year and they build in what we project in terms of an increase. So that is actually covered within the department's budgets. Now, depending on, again, if there's individuals that leave and we have, let's say, their benefit payout at that point in time, if it's short, then we do have what we call our payroll contingency fund, which would make that department budget whole. But from a budgetary standpoint right now, it's actually built into the department's budget in terms of that increase right now.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't believe there's any other questions. Okay, so on a motion by Supervisor Thais, a second by Supervisor Gauger to approve resolution 2024-67. Would you go to your voter board, please? And that passes on a vote of 19 yes and 0 no's with two absent. Okay, the resolution 2064-68, the library grant, Supervisor Norton, please.
All right, I will make a motion to approve resolution number 2024-68. With that, I would also like to make an amendment on some of the verbiage. It was brought up, if I can push the amendment button or not.
You got it.
Oh, I did? Okay, it didn't. All right. Hey, there we go. So the statute of 4358 is the library board shall have exclusive control of the expenditure of all monies collected, donated, or appropriated for a library fund, and of the purchase of a site and erection of the library building whenever authorized. So the part that was concerning to the library board last night was the second and last paragraph, the one right above that statute listed, is that the Door County Board of Supervisors does hereby authorize the Door County Library to accept the grant as described above. That it might not be in compliance with statute. So what was proposed is to change that verbiage to now therefore be resolved that as the fiscal agent for the Door County Library, the Door County Board of Supervisors does hereby accept the grant as described above.
Okay. Nissa, have you offered that amendment to our corp counsel for approval or the wording of it?
Not the wording, no.
No. Sean, it was a result of your meeting last evening, so
Yes.
no one's quite prepared for this.
I guess I don't have any issue with it, with the wording. The library board does have some autonomy with regard to funds within the library fund. And they do have exclusive control of the expenditure of library funds. This isn't an expenditure. This is a receiving a grant. Now, I believe they also have some autonomy with receiving grants. So unlike other committees, the library board is a little different. Because of that, I'm okay with the language change. The language in there has been past practice. That's what we've done for grants provided for library purposes. But I don't think the language change is going to impact anything significant for the county. I think it's okay.
Okay, is that kind of clear to everyone? I guess we're trying to avoid any conflict there. This is simply acceptance of the grant, though, really.
Correct. This resolution authorizes the acceptance of the grant. County board rules require that all gifts, donations, grants to the county in excess of $5,000 be approved by the county board. That rule is somewhat in conflict with the statutes for donations to a library that the library board has the ability to accept on their own. I tried to do the best I could to have a happy medium between two county rules. I don't think the resolution proposed by Supervisor Norton will impact the county harmfully in any way.
Okay, so there is a motion by Supervisor Norton for an amendment. Is there a second to that amendment? There is, Supervisor Resnick. Okay, We, yeah. Okay, so we need to vote on the amendment first? Okay, here's a question by Supervisor Miller.
Yeah, could you please restate the amendment? And again, Sean, this amendment has no future impact on how the county, how the library and the county board interact as far as approval of different funding.
The amendment is with regards to this specific resolution. I anticipate future resolutions to have the same wording. So I think it could, as long as the library board is taking this position, impact the way the county approves future donations to the library. But the from a strictly amendment standpoint, it only amends this resolution. We're not doing anything that is requiring or changing the county procedure going forward.
Yeah, could you please?
Now therefore it be resolved that as the fiscal agent of the Door County Library, the Door County Board of Supervisors does hereby accept the grant as described above.
Okay. I guess for a point of trying to clarify it in my own mind as well, the original motion, the original resolution, the county would have accepted the money, and regardless of an amendment, the library board would be involved in the decision of how that money is spent. This is just trying to make that evident in the first place, but it's really there regardless.
Yes, either way, the county board is approving the acceptance of funds, which is what is required under county board rules. Whether we amend it or not, the language says that the Board of Supervisors authorizes acceptance as fiscal agent, authorizes acceptance. That meets the county board rules for board approval. Once that money is designated for the library board has exclusive control over the expenditure of those funds.
Mm-hmm.
So all this resolution doing with or without the amendment is authorizing the acceptance of the funds for the purpose stated.
Okay. Indulge me a bit because this is my first
Yep.
hearing it too,
Mhm.
and I'm trying to decide how it's best to. The amendment is okay, but not necessary to passing or accepting the money. We could go with the original.
I think what the amendment is getting to, and
Is how it's
Supervisor
being
Dorn can
spent.
correct me, is to clarify, in an attempt to clarify the county board's role over these funds by specifying that the county board is the fiscal agent of the funds. The county board funds the library through the budgetary process, and then goes ahead and accepts the funds. So I think the purpose, the main difference of the amendment is just to clarify the county board's role as fiscal agent for the library.
Okay. Okay, Supervisor Thais, did you have a comment?
Yeah, so just hypothetically, and I'm not suggesting we do this. So what if the board didn't accept it? Then the funds don't flow, right? I know, but so why are we doing this? I mean,
It
does it matter?
it's more complicated to that. The statute's a little nuanced, but yes, if I think in this case, if the county board did not approve this resolution, the library board has authority to accept the donation without county board approval.
So what I'm getting at that formality, I'm not even sure why we come before the board, and I'm not, it complicates things, I guess, in my mind. You know, obviously you were introducing amendment to a resolution that seems cut and dry, that has a meaning, and whether we vote this up or down doesn't make a difference. They already accept it and they're going to take it. So just
Well,
Yes.
it's a policy for the county board to approve grants
What-
overall.
When I had initially received the resolution that would be proposed, that first whereas clause was missing. So essentially, the resolution didn't ask the county board to do anything. It was simply stating that the library is accepting these funds. I don't like to bring forward resolutions to the county board that the county board doesn't do anything. So I looked at past practice. In the past, the county board has been giving me opportunity to authorize acceptance of the funds. I added that language back in
Mhm.
to the resolution. But in the future, it could be just an FYI on the county board agenda where the library board is not forwarding a proposed resolution to the county. That would also be appropriate. I think that the county board does have the obligation to, or there's a requirement from the library board to notify the county board of expenditures, acceptance of funds, so that the county board can make an informed choice during the budgetary process. But you are correct that this could have been an FYI to the county board without a resolution saying we were offered these funds, we accepted these funds. We're putting the county board on notice.
Understood.
Okay, Supervisor Anigal, did you have a question?
Okay, so one, this resolution basically follows our standard policies for accepting granted dollar values, correct?
That is correct. The county has a blanket county board rule that any donation in excess of or equal to or in excess of $5,000 requires county board approval. The statutes, when it comes to library board, say otherwise.
And I'm just playing, not even devil's advocate, I'm just trying to, because it is a last minute request for change, yet I do recognize that that entity is a different entity from our typical group of entities that receive grants that we have to approve. And reminder that financially, we are the fiscal agent for every department that we have. So to me, that's almost redundant, right?
Yes.
Okay. I'm more, I have difficulty having yet another different procedure for yet another different thing that might come up. So personally, does this resolution state essentially, does this resolution put us in statutory concern as written?
I don't think so. I think that it's maybe going above and beyond what is required.
Yeah, I'd see that.
It's saying, yes, we, the county, are authorizing acceptance of these funds, whether you need it or not. Now, there may be a conflict if the county board would say, we're not authorizing these funds. And then the county board or the library board could say, we have authority absent. But as long as this resolution is passed, then there is no conflict with the statutes.
Right.
It's just above and beyond what is required. It's saying we authorize or we're the library board to accept these funds.
Right. So we're basically following our standard cookie cutter pattern for accepting grants, right? Let's ignore the statutory difference of that department.
Okay. Yes, all gifts, grants, and donations in excess of $5,000. This is the general format of the resolution the county board approves for all of them.
Okay. So then by that definition, due to what has come to light within the last 24 hours, doesn't that make more sense to change our policy as it pertains to that particular department, rather than creating a set of ordinance patterns that have to be remembered each time this happens?
You certainly could, yeah.
Okay. For me, I just leave the ordinance the way it stands. At the moment, we're following the pattern we're used to. I don't see that it's not going to pass.
No.
I'd rather see us change the policy than if it means that the policy is technically not in statutory in line where it should be. So that's a future discussion.
Supervisor Shulman, please.
I think we should change the policy at another meeting. And then this time, could we just table this, which would mean we didn't respond to it? They have the authority to accept it. They notified us that they're taking it and we just take no action on it. Because maybe it doesn't matter one way or the other, but it's kind of like admitting we're out of statutory, taking the action versus just don't take the action. And they did what they were supposed to do, telling us that they're doing this. That's my thought. I think we should change the policy to read how it reads, but exempt the library board because they are exempt from it.
There's differing opinions on tabling to no future date in an attempt to kill it. It's I suppose under Robert's Rules of Order, you can interpret that that's allowed. To me, I've always interpreted that as out of order. Essentially what the board is doing is denying the resolution If the board wants to deny the resolution, it should just deny the resolution.
Does that mean you don't support it though? If you deny it, like you're saying, no, you don't accept the money. Is it different or is that same?
If you deny, then, I mean, by implication, you could say that we're not authorizing the funds. Library board, you can do it on your own. I mean, there could be clarification that we're denying it for some other purpose. But yeah, I mean, I think that if you don't want this to be passed, then just deny.
Or withdraw it. Or withdraw it off the floor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You could
It
withdraw it
seems
too.
to be getting a little more complicated as we're going here. I think what I'm hearing Supervisor Shomo is perhaps the original resolution would be okay, and then we work on a policy clarification, or I don't think anyone wants to not accept the money. I mean, that's not the question here. Yeah. Okay.
Policy changes, we vote it down and then we don't change it.
Mhm. Supervisor Gunlickson.
Yeah, thank you. There's no doubt that we all are gonna approve this, but talking with my colleague here, the only thing in my head that is a disturbing verbiage is the word authorized, since we don't have authoritative ability to do this. If she changes it to affirms, solves the problem, case closed.
And I'm fine with that.
Okay, Supervisor Rubler.
I was just gonna say that, why don't we just say no to the amendment and go back to the original and be over with? Yeah, I mean, that's gonna solve the problem.
Okay, I'm gonna look to you, Sean. There was a suggestion to change the verbiage in the amendment. Who the person making the amendment is agreeable to, by a nod of her head, I guess? Or are we just better to vote on the amendment up and down and then go to the resolution? I want to do this in a simple way that everyone kind of understands where we're going.
Yeah, I think as written, I'm presuming that the county board authorizes or affirms the approval of the funds, which I see no reason why anybody would deny it. I think it accomplishes the same goal. The difference really is the library board trying to maintain authority or assert its authority over the county board. That's the issue here. The county library board is feeling that the county board by this resolution is stepping on its toes or usurping more authority than they should assert. If as Supervisor Gunlick said we changed the word authorized to what was the word? Affirms. I guess it solves that issue, and the library board would be satisfied that the county board is not exercising authority it does not have.
Okay.
Either way,
yeah.
If this is amended and approved, or if it's approved as is, the library board can accept the donated funds.
Okay, Supervisor Hennigel.
Would like to remind the board that this is the pattern we've used for many years for grants in general, including library grants. So I would rather drop the amendment, accept this as is, like we've done for hundreds in the past, but then put it on the agenda for the county board to change the policy as appropriately to statutes for that particular department as a separate activity later on. I'd just like to let's just move on.
With that comment, that could go to the administrative committee for review there.
Correct. And we do that as quickly as we can within the recognized Corp Council's activities.
Okay, Supervisor Shomo, you're good? Okay, I guess with all this being said, we need to take action on the amendment first.
Which version of the amendment?
Uh,
First or the second?
Well, there's only one.
We have changed the link.
There was no motion to change the language, so it's really the language as presented. And that's what we're gonna vote on. So do you have that language for the
The
amendment?
language is to amend the language on line 30 to read, now therefore be it resolved, as the fiscal agent of the Door County Library, the Door County Board of Supervisors does hereby accept the grant as described above.
Okay. So all those in favor of that amendment, would you indicate by an aye,
Do we
please?
want to go to the voter board?
Do you have it set to
We
go?
need to go to the voter.
Okay, we'll go to the voter board on it. Very good. Okay, so a yes vote would support the amendment. Okay, the vote on the amendment is 5 yes and 14 no. Okay, so we're back to the original resolution that was presented. Go ahead, make some comment to it. Yeah.
Okay. For those of you that are new, the library has two types of digital rentals for books, movies, audiobooks, stuff like that. One is Libby, which is a flat fee for the year. And then the other one is Hoopla, which is by rental. It's broken up. We have a couple of different caps. We have a monthly max cap that's set. We also have a per person checkout cap that's set to not go over the funds. It's pretty popular, but it's also pretty expensive. So that's where the 15,000 comes in, is to offset the cost of what we're paying for it. Where Libby is maybe pennies for each person, but you have to wait possibly for a book, especially if it's popular. You might be one, your place might be, you are waiting for 300 people to return it. Hoopla is more, you want it, you can get it right then and there if it's on their list. If anyone has any questions about Hoopla, feel free to ask too.
Okay, any questions on the resolution? Any donation the county receives is always appreciated. I think it's a good effort. Okay, there's a motion by Supervisor Norton, a second by Supervisor Shaw to approve resolution 2024-68 to accept the grant money. Go to your voter board, please. And that passes on a vote of 19 yes and 0 no. Okay, the final resolution for today, resolution 2024-69, is the EMS agreement. Supervisor Thies.
Yep, I would like to make a motion to approve resolution 2024-69. This is a collective bargaining agreement for our emergency services staff. We began negotiations in fall. It was a very respectful negotiation. This new contract is a 3-year contract, which in the past, I believe they've been 2-year contracts. We've addressed pay. We've added some steps in regard to the progression of our EMS personnel as they had asked for, and then it did also address some vacation time that they were asking for. So again, I'd like to stress that it was a very respectful negotiations, and I feel both sides represent themselves well. The fact that we have a 3-year agreement helps us project our costs a little bit more into the future as opposed to the 2 years. So I think we're ready to roll with this. So Corp Counsel will offer more details if you want more details on this negotiations and the contract and the 2024-27 resolution, if you need it.
Okay, Sean, did you want to make any further comment or not?
If a brief overview of what changed is desired, I can certainly do that.
Yeah, would you do that, please?
The red line collective bargaining agreement you have in front of you is the current collective bargaining agreement, red line to the changes that are proposed for a 3-year term, 2025 through 2027. The primary changes that were made or negotiated to the existing agreement was an amended vacation schedule to allow emergency service employees to earn vacation time faster, that they advance to the next vacation step more quickly. The second change was a change to the compensation schedule. We had retooled the way the compensation schedule was put together. In 2025, we had assured there was separation between a specific percentage separation between an EMT, an advanced EMT, a paramedic, and a lieutenant. In 2026 and 2027, we added steps. So there's an additional increase in pay once an employee makes it to 10 years, 14 years, and 17 years. In addition to that, there was a 3% increase in 2026 and a 2.5% base wage increase or increase in 2027. The final major change is towards the back of the red line document. There's two memorandums of agreement starting on page 55. Those allow the county to recognize years of experience for outside individuals applying to come into the department, as well as part-time casual call currently working for the department moving to full-time. We can recognize their years of experience by placing them into the step, or another way to think of that is years of service equal to their experience, and front load them with more vacation. They still would follow the vacation schedule, but we could say you're starting with 48 hours or some other amount. In addition, those memorandums agreements go back to the beginning of 2022, and they find employees who were hired either as an external hire or a casual call part-time to full-time that did not receive a recognition of their years of experience, and they place them into the appropriate step in the wage scale so that their pay reflects their experience. Really, that's the extent of the real large or substantial changes. Otherwise, there were some minor changes such as updating names of committees that have changed since the agreements were put in place. There also, I want to update the board and the administrative committee too, is there was a couple changes that were made after the admin committee had saw this. When we submitted to the union had brought up an error or something that we had missed. And they both are related to the memorandum of agreement for casual call part-time to full-time. There was one employee that was left off that list, and then there was a miscalculation of the appropriate grade for the other two. That's more of a calculation error. We did make that correction, and it is in the document before you. So the document you see is the final document that the county is or that the emergency service union is voting on, I believe, tonight to accept. We fully expect that they will accept it as proposed. If the county board approves this document, I expect emergency services union to approve it tonight, and we can sign the agreement and get it in place before the new year when it would take effect. So if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Okay, Supervisor Zettel.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. On page 39 of the packet, lines 4, 5, and 6, I'm curious relative to the negotiation, and to some extent a concern about, making sure that the county has workforce available during some of the larger events, and you call it specific events here, but isn't there a concern of kind of hamstringing the ability to provide services if there are events that are larger? Like, for example, I would think just in terms of quantities of people, Fall Fest wouldn't be on there, as an event. And I'm just wondering if there, in the future, might be a better way based on, size of event and potential, risk or concerns to make sure that could be addressed in that manner in the future.
I'll let Director Leclerc explain how that works for those types of events, but what I can say is the current contract lists out those 3 events as times when individuals aren't permitted to take their paid leave. The clarification that you referenced was just that. It was a clarification that paid leave includes what is there? Holiday pay. So it extends the current paid leave provision and clarifies that it's also applicable to floating holidays. That in addition to vacation time, which is prohibited in those 3 events, you also can't take floating holidays because we do need to maintain staffing. But I'll pass it over.
The reason that Pumpkin Patch is on there versus Fall Fest right now is it just goes back to prior years. Pumpkin Patch used to rival 4th of July for us. Fall Fest was kind of Saturday night. The union was agreeable to those couple days because what ended up happening if Sean takes off vacation, we have to force somebody. Got to the point where we couldn't staff special event trucks on top of the additional things. So the union was agreeable a few contracts ago to add these days in, as we call them blackout days, where they're restricted. That's a new bell in here, huh?
Sorry.
Jill.
Nearly you're done.
Time's up.
But we have been talking to the union about maybe switching those days from Pumpkin Patch to Fall Fest.
Okay.
But it's just, we evaluate it, like this year, we restricted 4th of July weekend, all 24 hours of Friday, Saturday. With triathlon, we just restricted the day half 12, not the nights. And then just we did not restrict Pumpkin Patch. So it kind of ebbs and flows.
It's just an outlier. It just seems like an outlier when you think about all the crowds.
When we first got it in, it wasn't that impactful for us. It's very impactful for law enforcement. And since we got it in, it changed. I brought it up one day, just at a staff meeting. I said, hey, I want to swap these 2 weekends. And I was reminded very quickly that language wasn't in the contract. So the group now, as Mr. Things referenced, are very respectful. They're open to talking about it.
All right. No, thank you for clarification.
You bet.
Appreciate it.
Okay. Is there any other questions? Okay. I will take up the issue with the staff about, ringing bells during your presentation. That behavior is not acceptable.
Move to the naughty list.
So. I think there was a lot of good effort going into this contract negotiations, Todd being there, myself representing the board, and Ken and Sean and Aaron, but I want to compliment the EMS bargaining unit as well. Everything went real well. But we still have to vote on this resolution. So resolution 2024-69, motion by Thais, a second by Anikel to approve. Would you go to your voting board, please? Okay, that passes on a vote of 18 yes and 1 no. Okay, so that stands approved. And we've already done the special reports. I have no new business. Are there any oral committee reports? The review of committee minutes? I'm sorry. No, go ahead.
I would like to just cover one thing because I think it's very significant from our operational standpoint. So if you've been following the finance committee, I guess we had a good ending to the year. We did our audit for 2023, and that audit came back very positive, both in terms of how Steve maintains our operations and our books, but also overall our financial position in terms of that. So I thought that was very good for the operations. And then we did report this month also to finance that we had our Moody's rating redone. So we were at a double A2, we moved up to a double A1. There only is one higher. But if you can imagine, that puts us in a very good position as we start heading into our communications project and the impact. Obviously, there's a financial impact for us. But again, that process we went through, they review all of our financials, they grab our budget, they go through multiple years of our budget for that. They had a list of questions that Steve and I all had to cover in terms of both economic trends for the county, but also what we have in place, from everything from security policies to how we're working with our expenditures. But again, to have that occur is a major accomplishment. So I think that reflects not only well on the finance committee, but also I think the county board. Obviously, we were all part of this in putting together the budget. But I think it's a major accomplishment. And I think I just wanted to share it with the board right before Christmas. It's kind of a good report to share with you guys. But it is, I think, a major accomplishment for our organizations. And I just wanted to thank the finance committee and the county board for their support, because that's what got us there. So just wanted to pass that on.
Okay. Anything under committee reports? Okay, the review of the committee minutes. Any questions? Review of vouchers, claims, and bills. Okay, seeing nothing, the announcements coming up in February is the WCA Legislative Days. That's scheduled for February 25th and 26th, Tuesday and Wednesday. The 25th would be our normal county board meeting. So I'm suggesting moving the county board meeting to the 27th of that month, that same week. And then the clerk needs to know has intentions of attending the legislative days in our legislative conference, the WCA conference in Madison. So you need to let her know. She needs to make.
Let's do a raise of hands.
Okay, raise of hands of those who's planning to go. February 25th and 26th. It's a Tuesday and Wednesday.
So you'd go down Monday night, say Monday night, Tuesday night, come home Wednesday afternoon.
Okay,
Ryan,
so
Bob, Claire, Vinny, and you.
Keep your hands up one more time. I think
Yeah.
that's fine.
1, 2, 3, 4. Fisher. Okay, and myself, I guess.
6, 7.
Okay, if any of you decide to go, do it as quickly as possible.
I'll make reservations next week, so if you think about it over the weekend, let me know. Well, no, I'm not gonna make reservations next week because it's Christmas. Maybe they'll get done yet this week.
Okay. And then Ken, you mentioned the county legislative days in March.
Yeah, so just remember, just a reminder that in 2025 is what we consider our Door Kiwani legislative days. And although it's not finally confirmed, we do have tentative dates. We're just waiting to hear back from the state. Working with Mr. Kitchens in terms of finalizing, but we're looking at March. The formal dates would be March 18th, 19th, and 20th. So that's, you travel down on the 18th in the evening, but the formal day would be on the 19th. So some people do travel down on the 19th. And then the 20th would be if there's any, I guess, meetings with state agencies. So again, that's tentative. So this maybe mark that down. I will, obviously, since it's March, we'll get a finalized date, but just to kind of throw that out there on your calendars. If you don't mind, I had one other item.
Yeah, please.
Okay, and then obviously, one other thing that we usually try to do is we try to do our holiday get together after the holidays because everyone's so busy. But we try to do at least the county boards and our department heads to get together for dinner and celebration. And I guess if we're looking for your preference, so right now we're looking, just to make sure I don't say the wrong dates and get you to vote on a wrong day. We're looking at either January 9th or January 23rd. Those are both Thursday nights. So we're looking to see if there's a strong preference one way or another from the county board members themselves. January 9th or January 23rd. Okay. I don't know if we're gonna do like a show.
Okay, that means the 23rd then?
That's right.
Okay, well, we'll have a show of hands then. Who would prefer January 9th? Just one, January 23rd? I think that seems to be the majority, vast majority.
Okay.
Got it.
Okay, Very good. Thank you.
So just mark that down. I think what we did last time was about, I'll have to look, it was either like 4 or 4:30 a start time, and then we'll go from there. But again, we'll get out more information on that once we get the reservations and everything confirmed. Obviously, if you participate, there'll probably just, there might be a small fee related to the dinner for that, but we do try to cover some of that, but you go to a certain limit on that, so. Well, we're working on 2 different locations yet, so. It will be in the Sturgeon Bay area, though.
Okay, that concludes our business then for the day. Thank you for indulging with me. I think we've accomplished quite a bit this year, and I thank you for your support, putting me in this position. Hope to do better going forward, but we'll work at it. Okay, we need a motion to adjourn, please. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Before we adjourn, as in the past, I'd like to offer a Merry Christmas on behalf of all of my colleagues that are here with me here today on the county board. We extend a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to our elected officials, to all of the staff that keep this county running, and all those people that do the hard work to keep people safe in our county. Wish you a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and above all, a very safe holiday season, and come back full of energy to process 2025.
Thank you. I always bring my Walloon influence or inheritance into this. So the newsletter was Bo Noe and Bo Ane. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, or Joyeux Noel to yours and all your family. So we had a motion to adjourn. I think by someone, by Supervisor Shaw, second by Supervisor Zettel. All in favor, signify by aye. We stand adjourned. Thank you.